in this next episode I made some modification with my application, and the reason is that this application is going to be a single page application, and accordingly I wrote a decent description, not too long but more fancier name description for the motivation. So this is a single page web application, but without, just only with Webpack, TypeScript, and then maybe later just Bootstrap, web components, without any fancy framework like Angular and React. Actually, I love Angular and React, and I highly recommend them because they provide, especially Angular, a very opinionated, well architected infrastructure and tooling for every, and that's actually well established tooling for web application development. But for the sake of fun, with this application, my goal is just to experiment with the bare bones, the basics, and then when you understand the foundation, the bottom part, the really the basis of all these technologies, then possibly later you would appreciate a lot better the enormous amount of knowledge and experience that is available from these Angular and React frameworks. So because this is a single page application, what I have modified here and is that I removed, actually relocated the two message, this hello world and tip check your console. You know, I'm just following a step-by-step introduction here, relocated from the static page over to a dynamic page. And the way I'm doing is that here I just defined a div section, a div element with an IT root, and then in the TypeScript index.ts, when the page is loaded, this is the way, this in the window at event listener. So when the page is loaded, this is a callback function, and this in this callback function using the document get element by ID regular function, we have here the root element, actually this div element, and then it will be replaced its content with this hello world and tip check your console. Yes, so this is typical, only the first step. So from this point on, this index HTML is not going to be changed at all. This just remains as it, and the whole body is dynamically will be generated. So this is typical for all frameworks, all popular frameworks today. That's the way Angular, React, all does exactly the same trick. And what you can see here, as this is this backtick string literal, where you can enter big chunks of HTML code, and later I will show how to use expressions, or even more dynamic, how to generate these blocks of text HTML code even more dynamic. But for now, just keep in mind that this is the simple goal of the project. A side step which is related to this one is this, the source map. The source map is very important to define for TypeScript applications and or bundles, because the bundling process converts the TypeScript original source file into a mass of a stream of text, which is very hard to decipher. So that's why when we want to debug or review our application, we would love to have a source map. So that's the first step is to define that the source map should be generated by the TypeScript compiler, and this is not enough. We also have to add this devtool inline dash source dash map into the configuration. This was, in my opinion, a mistake that it wasn't originally included in the original webpack.config.js, but it was quite easy to locate. If you are expected the source map, if you know what is the concept of the source map, then you were looking for it, and therefore definitely we wanted to include it here. So that's so easy just to support. So how it should look, just start npm run serve, and here you go. Here is the application, and yep, in the sources you can see that the index.ts is included in the my webpack project. I will rename it shortly, and then also the source index.ts is included here, and then it helps you to debug your application, because you can add breakpoints to your actual source code. So that's why source map is very important in an application like so. So the next step here is to deploy this application. As I mentioned, that because we have configured this Azure static web app for our project, this project is linked to it. Let's just simply commit and push the modifications. Okay, so single page app getting started. Actually, this is going to be the topic of our part 3 in this video series, which accompanying these lectures. Okay, and yep, and then I push it here. Okay, now it's pushed, and then what I am expecting that from here that single page app getting started part 3 push. So again, a new deployment process is automatically triggered. And the build process is under its way. In the meantime, let's just remove that and wait for a second, for a couple of seconds. Usually doesn't take long. I can also stop my web app. Of course, we can also refresh. Yep, and build and deploy started a few seconds ago. We have to wait until this is done. Yep, it is completed, and therefore we can open this application. Say when I right click here, it says browse site, or I can also, so let's just browse site, and here you go, this is our application. And then sources, yeah. Of course, because this is a production build, it will not have the source map, because the source map is only relevant for the development build. So that's why just be prepared that what we are deploying here is on Azure. This is the production deployment.